Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news.
The State Minister for Legal Affairs says having all of the Baha Mar documents unsealed is still a major priority for the government. The story coming up.
The former Deputy Prime Minister responds to recent criticisms about the Baha Mar deal. That story straight ahead.
Atlantis officials are demanding that the Baha Mar documents be unsealed. That and more tonight on our news.
News is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina McNeil. Topping news tonight, the government has not forgotten about its promise it made to the Bahamian people to find out exactly what was in that Baha Mar agreement signed last year, according to Minister of State for Legal Affairs Ellsworth Johnson. In an interview with our news today, Johnson says although the government has a list of other issues to deal with, finding out which concessions were given and if the last government perhaps shortchanged the Bahamian people in that agreement is something this government is still in the process of looking into. Kyle Joaquin reports.
We are up to the task to do the work. That's what we have signed up for, and that's what we shall do.
Revealing the details surrounding the sale of Baha Mar remains high on government's list of priorities, according to State Minister for Legal Affairs Ellsworth Johnson. It's been weeks since we've heard from Attorney General Carl Bethel on the progress government has made in having the Baha Mar deal unsealed. The Christie administration signed an agreement in August of last year with the Export-Import Bank of China to get the resort open, but the details of that agreement were sealed up by the courts.
We are going through an extensive audit to look at the documents, to review them. During the campaign, the Prime Minister made it clear that there are certain things that he thinks that should be in the public domain. I want to remind the Bahamian public that transparency and accountability is the order of the day in this government.
Back in April, the previous government had revealed only the heads of agreement with Chow Tai Fook Enterprises. Among other things, the former government had committed up to $5 million towards the costs and expenses of marketing by September of this year, and the further $5 million by a date to be agreed. The F&M had made repeated calls for the deal, which they dubbed the secret deal, to be made public. But former Attorney General Alison Maynard Gibson insisted there is nothing to hide. As for claims that members of the previous government may have been working in their personal interests, Johnson said once everything is revealed, the law will take its course.
The whole process or modus operandi of conducting business as if it was your personal tuck shop, for your personal self-aggrandizement, your friends, family, and lovers, those days are gone. You will see prosecutions, as my Prime Minister said.
And he said it's not just about Baha Mar, but all of the government ministries where any wrongdoing may have occurred. Now, as for when all will be revealed, Johnson insists people should give it time.
We're going to do our due diligence and in due time. And I think the Bahamian people understand that. They want proper work. Shoddy work has been done for years. And they don't want that anymore. They don't want any half chumped up piece of investigation and you just dump it on the... No, because that's monies. That's time and investment, and people don't want that.
Now, Johnson said Bahamians can expect to hear more about this in his budget presentation, as well as the presentation from Attorney General Senator Carl Bethel. Reporting from the House of Assembly for our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
In an effort to protect the resort's most favored nation status, Atlantis officials are calling for the Baha Mar deal documents to be unsealed. Senior Vice President of Public Relations of the Atlantis Resort, Ed Fields, is adamant that all of Atlantis's positions are open to the public, and so should any agreement with any other hotel. Giorgio Bain reports.
Atlantis officials intend to meet with the Minister administration soon to push vigorously to have the Baha Mar documents unsealed to see if the country's largest MFN has been violated. Under Atlantis's MFN clause, the Bahamas government cannot agree to terms in any other deal that are more favorable than Atlantis's. When the deal was signed between the government and the Export-Import Bank of China last August, then opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis was vocal about having those documents unsealed. Field says he assumes the only thing holding the Minnis administration back are court processes.
I would assume, and I can only assume, that the government is as anxious to unseal the deal as we are to have it unsealed. I would assume also that the only thing that is stopping it is some sort of legal impediment, if there is one, some court proceeding or filing or whatever there is that they do that caused it to be sealed in the first place has to essentially be reversed to cause it to be unsealed.
In accordance with Chow Tai Fook Enterprises heads of agreement, the former administration agreed to a $10 million contribution subject to substantial progress toward the completion of the project, including the $16 million contribution it had made for cooperative marketing on the match funding basis. According to Fields, after reviewing the heads of agreement, there are already some substantial differences.
The heads of agreement was published, and we saw a few differences that we will address, which I don't want to allude to now. But the more recent kind of revelation was a $9 million equity position for the next 3 years. Again, it's unclear what that is. So to essentially go on the offensive as to what we should expect as a mitigation is a little premature. But what we are concerned about and what we do want to do is to get clarity on things like that so we do know where we stand.
Fields also questioned whether the $9 million equity contribution is in addition to the financial commitments agreed for marketing, which he said would certainly render it above and beyond what Atlantis has ever received. According to Fields, they simply want to know that the playing field is leveled.
Every day that goes by where we are not operating on a level playing field, at the end of the day, look, in business there are three favorite letters: ROI, return on investment. Entities get concessions for the purposes of the destination having a net benefit. We understand that, and certainly we got our share of concessions, which we think at the end of the day benefited the destination. All we want to do is be put in a position where someone doesn't get more concessions than we did, so that we are able to compete in a global market as well as a local market, but more globally, so that we can essentially do business in a competitive fashion.
Baha Mar had its Phase 1 soft opening on April 21st. Reporting for our News, I'm Georgia Bain.
And opposition leader Philip Brave Davis dismissing concerns expressed by Atlantis officials. Davis says as former deputy prime minister under the Christie administration, he does not believe the deal breaks any promises to Atlantis. Davis says any suggestion otherwise is simply insulting. Jasmine Brown has more.
Davis spoke to our news team moments after he exited the House of Assembly this afternoon, insisting that their administration did nothing wrong when it came to that Baha Mar deal.
It's insulting to think that one would have thought or think that the previous administration would be so irresponsible. We would know our responsibilities, we would know our obligations, and everything that I participated in, right? We worked within and we conducted ourselves within the parameters of our responsibilities.
Davis was responding to concerns raised by Atlantis Senior Vice President of Public Relations Ed Fields, who said they planned on meeting with members of the Minnis administration soon to lobby for those Baha Mar documents to be unsealed. Under the Atlantis MFN clause, the Bahamas government cannot agree to terms in any other deal that are more favorable than the terms agreed to with Atlantis. When asked if he is confident that the former administration did not violate that clause, Davis said this.
Confident was, as I'm aware, that at each occasion that any discussions were held in my presence, the question of the status of Atlantis was always in the forefront of our discussions.
The Christie administration came under heavy criticism after the August 2016 agreement between the government and the Export-Import Bank of China to get the project open and completed was sealed by the Supreme Court. Those criticisms have continued to this day. But Davis insisted that even he would be shocked if there was anything that jeopardized that clause.
I would be very surprised that any conditions of the favored entity status granted to Atlantis would have been breached by us in our negotiations with Baha Mar, because that status was always in mind in all the discussions I may have been engaged in respect to anything that they would have gotten.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Meanwhile, 6,500 people were hired by the Christie administration during its last 5 years in office. That's according to Minister of State for Public Service and National Insurance Brensel Roll, who also revealed the government's payroll ballooned by $10 million in the last 5 months of the Christie administration's term. Roll made the revelations during his contribution to the budget debate in the House of Assembly this morning. Roll says with those shocking figures, it's clear the former government has some explaining to do.
Mr. Speaker, I say to the member for Cat Island, you will have many opportunities to talk about contracts. You will have many opportunities, Mr. Speaker, to say to us, why, under your administration, Mr. Speaker, a person who was hired as a security, I am told his responsibility was to watch the police station. Just an amazing thing, Mr. Speaker.
Roll says another major issue in the public service is the number of pensioners who have been re-engaged by the former government. He insists the government has been saddled with the re-engagement of too many pensioners with skills that are already resident in the public service. Then he says there's the issue of unpaid health insurance for government workers. Roll says the Christie administration also neglected to pay insurance for a vast number of public service employees.
And so this government, Mr. Speaker, is left with the baggage or left in a position where we must now borrow nearly $70 million just to pay the insurances of the Bahamian people. Could you imagine what would happen or what would have happened? In fact, Mr. Speaker, days before we came to office, our insurance carrier told the government, the former government, that they were going to lapse all of the policies.
Roll insists this is just one of the reasons the government now has to borrow so much money. The government introduced 2 resolutions in the House of Assembly last week, one to borrow $400 million for expenses in the 2016-2017 fiscal year, and another to borrow $322 million for expenses in the 2017-2018 fiscal year. The $400 million resolution has already been passed. Well, since the budget debate began, the government has laid out examples of the former administration's fiscal mismanagement, resulting in $722 million in government borrowing. Well, Progressive Liberal Party MP for Exuma and Ragged Island Chester Cooper is firing back, insisting contributions by several F&M MPs have so far fallen flat and are nothing more than rally talk.
I have listened intently. I have read carefully the budget communication, and much of it comes off as rally talk. But the rallies are over.
Yes, that's right.
I expected a mature assessment of the state of the economy.
Didn't come.
We have come to appreciate careful deliberations in this important communication so as not to talk down or undermine our economy.
Cooper made the comments during his contribution to the debate this morning. Cooper specifically hit out at Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest, whom he says pointed the finger a lot but provided no real solutions to the country's economic woes.
The consumers of this report are not just the electorate, but the international rating agencies, the business community, and the investment community at home and abroad. This is the reason why, in my opinion, it was the wrong speech.
Cooper also called out the government for not living up to its campaign promise of cutting value-added tax on breadbasket items. In other news, a man who pleaded guilty to the indecent assault of a 9-year-old girl should have been charged with rape, according to the chief magistrate. 27-year-old Valdez McKinney today changed his plea to guilty in relation to the September 2016 assault on the girl at her home. McKinney was living with the girl's family when he went into her room, fondled her, and pushed his finger inside her. Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt said what was disclosed in the evidence was actually rape, which is defined as any degree of penetration or stimulation. She told McKinney that he was fortunate that due to an oversight, he was charged with a less serious offense. Ferguson Pratt said what McKinney did was a breach of trust. She said adults are supposed to protect children, not violate them. I don't like men who prey on little girls or little boys for that matter. Ferguson Pratt lamented that she was only empowered to give a maximum of 3 years imprisonment. The sentence takes effect from October 14th, 2016, the date of McKinney's arraignment. Still to come on our news. Could the Bahamas face another credit rating downgrade? Business leaders weigh in. That and more when our news comes back.
With a world of offers from Alive, you can set yourself free. Buy any $99 handset and get a second handset free. Plus everything you need for both phones, all for free. It's our biggest offer ever. We are Alive.
The Department of Statistics has once again commenced its annual Business Establishment Survey, which seeks to collect data on the business's operations regarding employment, revenue, and expenses. The figures collected will determine each sector's contribution to our changing economy and the estimation of the gross domestic product of the Bahamas. All information collected will be used for statistical purposes only and held in the strictest of confidence. The Department of Statistics, calculating our nation's progress.
Darling, I was made for you. Darling, I was made for you. The one thing that is true, darling, I was made for you. I was made for you.
While traveling to the Family Islands, taking in the beauty as you move across the ocean, clear skies and calm seas, the clean sea air, a refreshing beverage in hand, and the wind blowing in your face, you can't imagine a better way to travel until you realize. Don't just imagine it, do it. For the best way to get to your Family Island destination, Bahamas Ferries. We make the connection.
KFC, made for moms. Yes, for this mom. And for her too. Or for her. I don't know how she does it, but she does. KFC, made for moms. Enjoy the Mom's Day Off bucket from KFC. Enjoy 8 pieces of chicken, 2 large sides, 4 biscuits, and 2-liter Pepsi, all for $25, including VAT. KFC Nassau, celebrating 50 years of finger-licking good.
Following Moody's recent projection that the Bahamas' fiscal outlook is significantly worse than expected, many have questioned whether the International Credit Ratings Agency will downgrade the country's sovereign credit rating. Tonight, the Chamber of Commerce is weighing in. April Sands reports.
Following the Menace administration's revelation that it would have to borrow $722 million to finance its commitments for the present and upcoming fiscal years, International Credit Ratings Agency Moody's projected a significantly worse fiscal outlook for the Bahamas. It comes 6 months after another leading credit ratings agency downgraded the country's credit rating to junk status. Chairman of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, Transportation, Gowan Bowe, gave his take on the alarming situation.
What is critical, setting aside what I would call the political foray, is to analyze what contributed to that. And when I say that, this is objective and with no set agenda, because in reality, this is our public finances, or these are our public finances. We should have an understanding as to what expenditure commitments that were not seen just 2 months ago when the mid-year budget were done, that are now coming through. Are those infrastructure projects? Are those recurrent expenditure that add no value?
Now, Moody's has predicted a rough start on the new government's road to fiscal reform.
The state of affairs is really just a reporting of what is there. And so I think there needs to be a very clear distinction between what I would call fraudulent representation of the financial information and just poor fiscal management.
Bowe says the country's current financial position underscores the need for fiscal responsibility.
We always say we want to reduce the debt, and we often look at government very different from our personal lives or business lives. There's a point in time when you borrow to the point where there's no return, and we have to be very careful that we don't hit that, and that we as a small country are not like the US that continue to accumulate debt and can print money. We are bound by the external factors. And so we have to demonstrate that our information is credible, firstly, that our policies and our strategies are going in the right direction.
Reporting for our news, I'm April Sands.
A watchdog keeps a close eye on growing trash at the landfill. That's coming up when our news returns.
In today's world, things are constantly changing. So the one thing you can depend on to stay the same is quality, savings, and value. At Solomon's, you'll get real savings with unbeatable prices on everything your family needs. Solomon's, real quality, real savings, real value.
I'm free to live my life, yeah, free to be me, yeah, the way I wanna be, doing the things that I wanna do. Yes, I'm living my life, hey, BAF for life. Yes, I'm living my life, hey, BAF for life, for life. BAF has got you covered.
Speeds for free when you get TV, internet, and phone. Ask for Trio from Rev.
Hey beautiful, let Amani Hair put you in the spotlight with our fabulous hair and hair care products. Longing for length? Try our wide selection of Remy and Virgin hair. Keep it natural with hair care lines like Carol's Daughter, Ali K Naturals, As I Am, and many more. Be radiant with our wide selection of skincare products. Have questions? Connect with Amani Hair on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. Located Soldier Road and Shakur Way. Telephone 698-1155 or 422-1191. Let Amani Hair make a Barbie out of you.
A watchdog group is still keeping a close eye on the New Providence landfill, especially now as trash appears to be piling up at the site once again. Raising awareness about the New Providence landfill, or Rabble founder Laura Payne says immediate action is needed to prevent more fires from sparking up in the mounds of trash that have been growing since the general election.
Right now, all the garbage has been piling up with no coverage and no compacting and no management. This has been only since the election day. So we brought this to attention of the Minister of the Environment, and we do expect him to make sure that the garbage, at least in the short term, is covered and compacted daily, because this is the only way to prevent fires.
This comes in the wake of the full release of the Pan American Health Organization's report on the landfill, which Payne described as scary. She says it not only shows how contaminated New Providence is from the air straight down to the water and soil, but it shows that there is a lot of work to be done to preserve and protect Bahamians. But she says she is confident working with the new administration, which has pledged to remediate the landfill.
We have been in talks with the Prime Minister as well, and we know he's focused on the environment and he's really determined to clean the island. It is going to be a huge task, it definitely is, and it might even be impossible to get the island back how it used to be. It might be too contaminated right now. So it's a big task, and we know, and we are happy to help as we can.
Rabble has not yet met with new Environment Minister Romuald Ferreira, but Payne says she expects to meet with him shortly. Celebrating World Oceans Day locally, that's coming up after this break.
If you're looking for extra savings and free benefits
with car insurance
and home insurance,
NIBA has just the cover you need.
there's a free $250 gift voucher for new home insurance customers too, and 10% car insurance discount if you have home insurance.
With a claim service that's quick and friendly.
We call it cover without added costs.
Call for a quote on 677-6422 or Freeport 352-6422.
NIBA, pay less for your insurance.
Looking to upgrade your refrigerator stove or purchase an affordable home generator? We've got the perfect solution for you. Bahamas Welding and Fire is the best choice for the lowest prices in town. We carry top-of-the-line outdoor barbecue grills, air conditioners, refrigerators, stoves, generators, industrial hardware, and garden supplies with a wide assortment of tools and accessories. Open Monday through Saturday. Telephone 394-0004. BWF, we're more than just our name.
Grammy, can we go now?
As soon as I pay the bill, sweetie.
But you said you'd take me to the park today.
As soon as I pay the bill.
Grammy, why don't you sign up for the e-notification so you can see and pay your bill online?
Sign up for e-notifications. Receive your bills through email, view, print, and pay your bills online, leaving time for what matters. Sign up within the next 3 months and receive $10 off your next bill. The Water and Sewage Corporation. Committed to growth, committed to quality.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
1. Get faster internet speeds for free when you get TV, internet, and phone. Ask for Trio from Rev.
Rev, join the revolution.
Welcome back to our news. With 95% of the country underwater, the Bahamas joins countries around the world in celebrating World Oceans Day. Bahamas Reef Environment Educational Foundation Executive Director Casuarina McKinney-Lambert says oceans are important to the way of life in the Bahamas.
From fishing to tourism to recreation to transportation to managing our climate and also providing some of the oxygen that we're breathing. So one of the interesting things that people often aren't aware of is that every second breath that we take, the oxygen from that comes from the ocean. So imagine one breath comes from the trees and the trees that are photosynthesizing, and then the second breath comes from the ocean and the plants and algae in the ocean that are making oxygen that are keeping us alive.
Year-round, Brief works to protect oceans along with the Bahamas National Trust and the Nature Conservancy. Program Director for the Nature Conservancy in the Bahamas, Shanique Smith, says the three organizations are working on a project to expand and effectively manage marine protected areas in the Bahamas. The Bahamas currently protects 10% of its coastal and marine territory. The goal is to expand that coverage to at least 20% by 2020.
You want to have areas that have some higher level of protection so that you can then
continue to feed fisheries, you can continue to support tourism, you can continue to support protection of shorelines from things like mangroves and coral reefs. And this is one thing that's been recognized around the world. If you can put in place protected areas, you can get them effectively managed. You start to see high benefits for fisheries. You start to see ecotourism popping up around these areas that contributes to jobs and to economic development in a community and other things.
To learn more and to sign a petition in support of expanded marine protected areas, find 242 Protected on Facebook. 3 Bs for better blood pressure. That's coming up in tonight's Doctor's Hospital Health Tip.
What do broccoli, brown rice, and baked beans have in common? Well, they're all good sources of blood pressure-friendly protein. But not just any kind of protein will do when you're trying to keep blood pressure under control. A diet high in vegetable protein, not animal protein, is key. Are amino acids the answer? Well, researchers aren't sure why veggie protein lowers blood pressure, but they suspect that the amino acids in veggies may simply be kinder somehow to blood pressure than the amino acids in animal protein. And the magnesium and other good-for-you nutrients found in veggies may enhance the blood pressure-friendly effects by interacting synergistically with the amino acids. Some other ways you can get more protein without reaching for a steak knife: grab a handful of nuts, snack on seeds, say yes to soy, and go for whole grains. Isn't your health worth it?
Now your CFAL Daily Market Recap takes a look at today's markets. Partly sunny skies and showers ahead. Our weather forecast is coming right up.
Everywhere you go, always take the weather with you. Everywhere you go, always take the weather. Everywhere you go, always take the weather with you. Everywhere you go, always take the weather.
Thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina McNeil. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.